only 2% of players survive until 100 days. And of that, it's only a 0.1% that actually survive until 500 days. Here are the top 3 classes you should use in order to basically secure a spot in the 500-day leaderboards. And by the way, you can use these classes to even get to thousands of days or even tens of thousands. So if you want to survive longer than a goldfish's memory, then here is exactly what you need to know. So we're going to start off with the Ranger class. The Ranger class is going to be the cheapest class on this list. And why do I say Ranger? It's because the Ranger class, first of all, it helps you speedrun through the early game. With the revolver and starting with 18 ammo, you are thus able to go ahead and save the first kid on the first day, as well as getting the second kid on the first day if you are fast enough, or if you're in a group, you can do that. But by yourself, you can basically guarantee saving the first kid on the first day. Not only that, you also get a flashlight, therefore you can explore at night without any harm. And also, at level 2 and level 3, you get more ammo per shot, so a 10% chance to refund, and also 30 starting ammo, so then you can go ahead and save more kids without having to worry about ammo at the start. Now, why do I choose a Ranger class over something like the Lumberjack? It's because the Lumberjack, while most playthroughs you are gated by wood at some stage of the game, and you are forced to go ahead and chop down some trees using an axe, with the Ranger, you're more so exploring around the map because you have a combat ability. And also, if you do manage to find a house with wooden chairs, get all of those because those are literally worth 5 pieces of wood. And that will help you massively increase the amount of wood you really need to gather later on in your playthrough. So, obviously, go ahead and get the Ranger. And next up on the list, I'd like to mention the Brawler. Now, in my previous tier list and in my previous videos, I've stated that the Brawler sucks. And in a single player playthrough, I do believe that the Brawler is probably the worst class in the game, because not being able to use ranged weapons really puts you at a disadvantage, especially so when you're fighting against something such as a bear, right? Because fighting against a bear, if you accidentally aggro 2 bears, then you can't properly kite them, and, well, you'll take a lot of damage. In addition to that, when you're fighting the cultist stronghold, if you just run in there with this class, the Brawler, even if you do have better armor, for example, an iron body, it still won't be enough and you'll probably get mauled down soon. So you will need a lot of heals to back yourself up. So the can't use ranged weapons is the main downside to this class, and that's why I actually dislike it so much. If this class was instead, you can use ranged weapons, but it's only at 70% effectiveness, then I would pick it. And in a solo run, it would still be viable, but right now, it simply just is not viable at all. And after that, we get 2 buffs. We get 20% increase in HP, which makes it so that you won't die as early. So you can actually go inside, fight the cultists, go do some wrestling around, and then you can get out there and still be alive, hopefully at least. And with the extra 30% damage with melee weapons, you're able to go ahead and do a lot more damage early game, because most classes early game you don't have a melee weapon or any weapon in general. For example, None obviously has nothing. The Camper class doesn't have a weapon. Scavenger, no weapon. Medic, no weapon. Cook, no weapon. Hunter, the bear trap doesn't really count as a weapon, it's more so a trap. The Ranger has a weapon, so that's one class. The Lumberjack's good axe, I'm pretty sure does more damage than an old axe, so that should also count as a weapon, so that's 2. And also the Assassin class starts off with a katana and 120 throwing knives, which counts as a weapon as well. So of these, only 3 of them have early game attack damage increase. And with the Brawler's ability to do 30% more damage with melee weapons, the Brawler can equip an old axe and start chopping straight away. As well as in the early common chests, the most common weapon you'll find is probably going to be a spear, and because of that, you can utilize it very early on and be able to clear the first kid den. But with the certain force kids den, where you're actually fighting more difficult enemies, such as the bear, that class would be a lot worse. Now, As I've mentioned before, the Brawler is really good in a multiplayer scenario, but terrible in a solo scenario. Now, why exactly is the Brawler good in a multiplayer scenario? Well, if you really think about it, when you're in a multiplayer scenario, if you find ammo on the floor, what you can do is you can actually just pick it up and give it to your teammates, or even I'm pretty sure you can store ammo in your sack, but if you can't, you can still pick it up and give it to your teammates. And by giving the ammo to your teammates, such as one that's using a Ranger class, which means that they can refund ammo on shot, so ammo is more effective on a Ranger than on any other class in the game. But if you were to give your ammo to a teammate, then they can actually properly utilize it. But if you're in a solo playthrough, and then you get, for example, a revolver with revolver bullets, you can't use it at all. Therefore, the penalty of a can't use ranged weapons, you're not only not able to use ranged weapons, but effectively half of the chests you open will become literally useless. Because if you don't get a melee weapon, or you don't get any form of armor, or you don't get a med kit or something, it's literally useless. And also, if I'm playing a ranged class, for example, I'm playing a Ranger and I'm using the revolver, and I find another revolver in a chest, that also comes with 6 ammo. So even though I can't benefit from the extra revolver, I can still benefit from the 6 extra ammo. But in the case of the Brawler class, if I do find a spear, and if I find another spear in a chest, that new spear is now literally useless. The only way you can actually make yourself better is by finding armor, which every single class in the game benefits from, or by finding a better weapon. Now, if we go ahead and look at the different levels here, level 2, you can get 10% extra health regen and regen sooner, so it just helps you become more bulky with the 20% plus extra HP, and the 5% chance to block incoming damage also just, makes you more bulky. Now, one thing that I do have to note about the Brawler class is that if you are in a playthrough with multiple people, in a multiplayer playthrough, and you happen to find yourself a Mace, also known as a Morning Star, then just so you know, this is probably going to be the best class in the game, aside from the Assassin, because obviously there's a big price difference. But why do I say that? Because even though the damage output may not be as good as something like a Ranger, the Ranger has limited bullets. But the Brawler with a Morning Star would have infinite shots to hit, therefore it would be better. Now, last but not least, on our top 3 best classes to get 500 days, we have the Assassin. Now, obviously, it's the Assassin. Starts off with a Katana, which is the same strengths as a spear. And not only that, you also get 120 throwing knives. So you can 3-tap the wolves, and you can go ahead and clear the first den easily, as long as the second, third, and fourth stands as well. You can go ahead and clear those pretty easily as well with the 120 throwing knives. Now, if you are going ahead and fighting the cultists, if you're fighting the cultists a few times, for example the second and third time, you may not have enough throwing knives for that. So that is one thing that I have to point out. But the buffs here are all just pretty nice. Increased sprint speed and more chance of throwing knives in chests basically makes it so that you can just get more bullets and run around faster. The decrease in HP is pretty bad, so you might want someone at the front to tank more damage for you. For example, if you're in a team composition and you're going for full combat, maybe you could have 1 or 2 Brawlers, and then you can have a couple of Assassins and a Ranger as well to utilize all the bullets, because the Assassin doesn't really want to switch away from throwing knives, and the Brawler also cannot use ranged weapons, so you probably want a Ranger in there as well to go ahead and actually utilize those ranged weapons. And aside from that, level 2, you just do more damage with a critical strike, and level 3, again, just more ammo for yourself so you can throw more bullets. Though, the ideal composition, if you are trying to get to 500 days and you have unlimited gems, I would say is 1 Ranger, 1 Brawler, and 3 Assassins. And that is the best combat composition, and with that, you can basically go ahead, go through the stronghold, and just defeat it over and over and get gems that way, or you can also use that and defeat the cultists that come to you by defending your base and get to 500 days very easily.